Welcome to the Power of Your Voice. This show is designed to give a speaking platform to individuals that have powerful messages that can change the lives of others in many ways. My name is Melany Nelson, and I am the Executive Director for Northwest Victim Services. This episode of The Power of Your Voice will focus on individuals who have lost their lives to gun violence, and they are known to law enforcement. Today's guest is Chantay Love. She is the program director for E.M.I.R. Her mother actually founded E.M.I.R because she lost her son to gun violence. Chantay lost her brother to gun violence. Now, and he was known to law enforcement. Now, Northwest Victim Services, we help victims of crime. Within the Northwest section of Philadelphia, we can help homicide survivors, we can help victims and witnesses, but there is a requirement that decedent, victim, or witness could not have any involvement in the victimization. So today we're going to have a conversation where Chantay can shed a little light for those families that maybe their loved one was into some things that was known to law enforcement, what resources are available, and maybe how E.M.I.R can help that family. Welcome, Chantay.
Thank you, Melany. It's always good to see you.
You as well. Chantay and I have been working together for the last 5 years.
Wow, yeah.
So, and E.M.I.R does great. Long? It has been that long. And you guys do great work within the city of Philadelphia. So, Chantay, tell me about your brother's childhood. Then walk me through that journey of him becoming a young adult and then to that dark day when his life was lost to gun violence.
Wow. I don't get the opportunity to talk a lot about him because it's very daring and very personal. But I always like to share about him because I think people need to know that when someone is murdered that they had a life and that they were a loved person. But as a child, he was like a little average boy. He was fun. He liked to play jokes. As he got older, he really was an artist. And so he would draw. He would draw things and people. And he liked to make people feel good. I will say this one thing about him that sticks out with everybody is that he had a heart for people that was in need. So if he saw someone that needed food or was homeless, he would often bring them to our house and be like, "Mom, I gotta feed this person. They were hungry." And so when you talk to his friends, they always talk about that he had this soft heart about him, that he always was looking for people to be okay, and just trying to make the world better through his eyes. Okay. And I think that he was a funny guy.
Okay.
And we had a special closeness growing up. And I will say that because I'm the oldest and he was my mom's only son, we were very tight. Okay. We cooked together. We used to come over to my apartment a lot. We talked about life. We laughed. We went out together. He was the apple of her eye, and he was my brother.
Okay. So take me to that day.
Wow.
When he was murdered.
Okay. So March 26th, 1997. I think that is probably the day that recourse and reshaped our lives. I will say for most survivors of homicide, it changes the DNA of a family. Okay. And so that day was a normal day for us. I had come home from work, went to my apartment. My mom had come home. Everyone was in the house, and my baby sister got a phone call because someone had his beeper and was calling it. And she was beeping him. She was paying like, "Where you at?" Because Mom is looking for him. And they called the number back, and it was from the hospital. And they said that they wanted to talk to his mother. Mm. And for that, we needed to come to the hospital. And they wouldn't say. And because they wouldn't say, my mom always had this sense, you're a mom, so you know that connection that you have with your child, like she said something's wrong. And she immediately knew, she said, I feel like something's leaving my body. And so we were like, I was like, Mom, no, Mom, come on, no, don't say stuff like that. And when we got there, we was in the waiting room and they took us to the back. And before we got there, she said, is he alive? And they said, no, he's not alive. They told us that he was shot. He was shot 7 times.
Oh, wow.
And we went in the room and you could see his feet, his sneakers underneath the cloth. And you can tell, you know, you don't really realize that someone's gone until you see it. And it was like, he's really gone. And when we took back the sheet, you could see the bullet holes. And you could still see some of the fluids coming out still. And he was still warm.
This was at the hospital?
This was at the hospital. He was still warm there. He was, looked like he was asleep.
How old was he?
He was 20. Was he 20 or was he 19? Wow. Yeah.
How old were you at the time?
Now you know you can't ask that question. That means you go calculate.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm much older.
You was much older.
Yes.
Okay.
And so,
okay.
I think that for that night, I don't relive that night. You asking me is it would be someone like you that I would be comfortable with saying it.
Okay.
Because we've worked together, but I don't always relive that night.
Okay.
Because it's a night that I'll never forget, and so walking through and traveling through it is challenging.
I'm sure.
And I think that I know that after that night, who I was and who we were would be forever changed.
Right.
And that we will never be the family that we were. And through the craziness and the chaos and investigations, we would have to find a new norm.
Okay.
And that was going to be the challenge.
So your mom.
Yes, my mother.
Which I love. Your
Yes.
mom.
That's my mother.
She's awesome. She is awesome. So your mom started E.M.I.R.
Yes.
Now, tell me why your mom started E.M.I.R.
So this is really funny because this is really how it was. We were looking for support, and we were going to places, getting some help. And I'm not going to name a certain agency, and they said to us, we only help innocent families.
Okay.
And my mom said, but every murder is real. And we were first just helping people. What happened, people started to gravitate towards us. And it was, we were giving out food for families. We were helping them with funerals, walking them through the process. And then we had a conference. And the conference was called Drug-Related Homicides.
Okay.
And we really focused on what happens to the family when there's a criminal act involved, when that family or that victim has now been labeled to be a part of their own demise. And so we had a conference, Drug-Related Homicides, and it walked social workers, police department, correction officers, so that the idea was to disregard the crime and just serve the people. And if you could just serve them without judgment and any biases, you can get a better result in them healing. And it was very challenging, and it was a conference we just decided to put together. And what happened was, really, my sister was in school, and she was writing a grant. And it was like, write the grant for our agency that we just decided to put together.
Okay.
And we received our first grant from Maryland crime victims.
Wow. And
it was really, and that's when we were like, okay, well, now we have to make it real.
And that's how it started.
And that's how it started. And we started doing exactly what we set out to do, was to help families. We looked at when a murder occurs, we didn't eat as a family.
Okay.
And so food needed. And we were eating out, so looking at our nutrition. So we said, okay, we need to help families with nutrition. We needed to help families who didn't have insurance, and when the state said they couldn't help. So we started working with funeral homes and cemeteries and collecting monies, like, okay, this is how we can bury someone inexpensive. looking at how can you purchase coffins at wholesale. And that was the very beginnings. And it really was a support for families. It was only for those who have been impacted by homicide, who had some, what you call it, knowledge with the law enforcement. Who had some, and who has had that, and who society and the world have kind of cast away and kind of put the shame on this family and almost given a judgment call, like, why did he get murdered? He should have, well, if he was into that, what did you expect?
Right.
To change that narrative.
Right.
And it was important to change the narrative, because if we're going to heal a community, we can't have judgment in it, and we can't have those type of flaws.
Right.
And so,
which is true. And when I just saw your mom,
yes,
when you had when E.M.I.R there the candlelight and visual,
yes,
for the National Day of Remembrance, which was awesome. And we were speaking about that, how there are some people who make a decision as an adult.
yes,
Mom may not be aware of it.
Yes.
Auntie may not be, your sisters may not be aware of it. And as a result of that, they may lose their life.
Yes.
So the family is their whole life is turned upside down, and they don't know what to do. And they may not have an insurance policy. Did you guys have an insurance policy on your brother?
No.
At the time?
And what was sad was, at the time, a month before, my uncle had just passed. So we just buried my uncle. And then he got murdered exactly like a month later.
Wow.
And so we didn't have insurance, and we didn't have any more money. And so we were very fortunate that people that cared about us and cared about him, we started collecting money. We started pulling out our savings. Me and my sister and my mom and my stepdad, we pulled out our savings and said, okay, we got to bury him.
Right. Now, going back to your brother, so there were no services available for people who lost their lives and was known to law enforcement at that time. Is that correct?
Right. Well, at the time when we found out, because we stumbled upon it, we didn't know that was true. We had no idea that there was a separation. We stumbled upon it. And then, the geeky part of myself, we did some research and looked at the law, and the law stated that if you may have played a part, you're not entitled to any assistance. And so we realized then, how many people like us, and it's all about interpretation. And so if someone was incarcerated and just got out of prison and got murdered, most likely they'll get denied, because it will be labeled like they must have had some involvement. If they had drugs on them, they probably were selling drugs. Couldn't have been a drug user. And you have to realize that in our society, people that are black and brown are labeled as drug dealers, as opposed to having a habit. And so it's a punitive way. And we found that more and more. And we couldn't believe it. It was like, this really happens? You know how some people say, no, this don't really happen. No, this don't really happen, but it did.
Wow.
And I think that was the first time we even knew about victim services. And we were offered, like, counseling you can get, but you could not get your funeral helped.
Your compensation.
You couldn't get compensation. If you, I don't know if they had loss of wages or anything at the time, but the big thing was the funeral. And if you're looking at people who are at low income or poverty stricken, the opportunity of them trying to bury someone is very, very strained on them, that it could lead them into criminal activity. And so we said, this is a component of serving people without judgment. How do we get a family to move through the system, bury their loved one, heal at the same time, and try to regroup? And that was our beginnings, and we started that way, and we still do it. Okay.
So now, with victims' compensation is what we're speaking about, and I do think victims' compensation is a great program.
Yes, it is.
I think it's a great program, and there are requirements, as it is for every program, but I think it is great, and I think they're actually looking at things a little differently.
Yes, they are.
Which is great, and that's probably because of E.M.I.R.
Yes, because we've been talking about this for 20 years.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I think it's looking at things a little differently. Was someone apprehended for your brother's homicide?
Oh, yes. The sad part was The gentleman that was apprehended was Stephen Holiday,
Okay.
which was also a friend of my brother's, who had also been to our house, who had
Broke bread with you.
broke bread with us, um, who had just been a part of his life. And so even after he murdered him, he came to the memorial, he came to the house to try to help pay for the funeral.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yes,
So this is evidently before he was apprehended.
before he was
He
apprehended.
came to the memorial?
Oh yeah, signed the book and everything.
Okay, so if I know your mama,
Yeah.
I know we had a major problem when they found out.
Well, you know what's funny about my mom is that we knew who had murdered him was someone that was close to him,
Okay.
because he was just like the average black male who has to walk through the city streets. You only allow people that you know close to you, because the city streets they're very dangerous. It was dangerous. It was more dangerous. I'm not gonna say more dangerous. We had more homicides then, but you only got close to him if you were a friend of his.
Okay.
And he was shot at close range. And so he was shot at close range. He was shot in the back, and we knew it was someone that was close to him. And so immediately my mom went, my sister at the time was a police officer, and went straight into protection mode. And so he came to the house, and we already knew it was somebody that he knew.
But you
We
didn't know
it
who.
was him.
Okay.
And we started tracing back. Who was the last person that called him? Who car did he get in? And we knew that he picked him up. And we knew probably our family knew within days after we started putting the pieces together. Now, the police department putting it together takes a little bit longer.
Okay.
And so we knew that then that it was someone that he called friend, that he called his brother. And
Did he plead guilty?
Oh no, he's now has even put in an appeal, what they call a PCRA, PRCA, Post Conviction Relief Act, and he has not pled guilty. He's stating that he is innocent, and the evidence shows that he's guilty.
Okay.
And so we're very confident knowing that he's where he should be. It's sad that he has a life sentence.
He did get life.
He got life.
Okay.
And that because there are no winners. And so my mother screamed the first night when we was leaving the hospital, and his mother screamed at the sentencing. Our family fell out to pieces that week, and we watched in the courtroom how their family fell to pieces. And the difference was that they were on opposite sides.
Right.
And the reaction and the response was very similar. The difference is that they're still able to go see him, touch him, feel him, kiss him, talk to him, and interact. And we will never have that. We will just have memories.
Right. So since E.M.I.R has been in existence,
Yes.
have you helped a lot of families whose loved one has been murdered and they're known to law enforcement?
Yes, we have helped. I don't even know how many we have helped, because last year I know we had 588 families, and I don't know how many of them were from that might have had known to law enforcement. I can tell you that we have fought that law for a very long time. We're chipping away at it, and we're winning. Where we've had hearings with the state, and I think that the largest one that we won was the family that was in in Upper Darby, and we went straight to court with it, and we won because the perception, the law states that if you played a part, our argument was were they committing a crime? Were they, did you find a weapon on them? Because you have someone that says something or because they had a history is not enough.
Right.
And that until we can change the law and let everyone just serve and let law and judgment be to the higher power, we will continue to fight that law. Okay. And so we help families regardless. it doesn't matter to us what the circumstances were. And what matters to us is that if I could get you in a place of healing to move forward, and can I hold your hand and help put the pieces back together, we will wrap ourselves around you like a quilt, and we'll stay with you forever.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So you can actually assist with funeral
Yes.
arrangements?
So we're very fortunate to have different partners, funeral directors, cemeteries that have been with us for years, and we're able to, and we have great supporters.
That's great.
Whereas that our funeral expenses, we can bury someone and they don't have an expense.
That's
and
awesome.
that's the part that's pretty unique and that we continue to do. And I think it's because we've been around, we're going to celebrate 20 years.
Wonderful.
20, and it's a wonderful but sad thing.
Right.
It's sad that we have to grow
Right.
and we're still here
Right.
because there's still murder.
Right.
But it's a good thing to know that we're still asked.
Right. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So please tell your information, E.M.I.R, where it's located and how families can get in touch with you.
So E.M.I.R is located at 59 East Haines Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We're right behind Germantown High. Our phone number is 215-848-4068. And you can also see us on our website at emirphilly.org. And you can come out too. We're getting ready to have our fundraiser, 20 years of healing the community and intervention and prevention. We're going to honor some community leaders and honor my mom.
Oh,
And that's good.
good.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
And that'll be on October 24th at the Sugar House.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. That's
gotta
wonderful. Yeah. And we're neighbors. So
Yes,
we're
we're
right
neighbors.
at 6023 Germantown Avenue.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So what message would you have for the moms whose son or grandmoms, because there are a lot of grandmoms who are raising their grandchildren
Wow.
who lose their life? What message do you have for that mom or that grandmom who didn't know that their loved one
Right.
was known to law enforcement and they were affected by gun violence?
What I always say is that you're still mom. You still was a mother. You weren't a bad mother. This was a bad thing that happened, and that your son, no matter what the lifestyle, didn't deserve to be shot or murdered, and that we needed to get to the other guy first to heal them, and that they will be cried, they will be have tears, but that they always need to understand that they are still mom and grandmom, and that the part that they played in that loved one's life was good enough.
Right, mom and dad
And dad,
and granddad. I can't leave out
and
leave
you
out the
can't
gentleman.
leave out the dads,
Yes.
and you can't leave out the granddads. And I
Yeah.
normally tell them that, especially for a dad who won't take their son to the wedding, or who now has to tell their grandchild stories, is that to tell them with pride, tell them because his life was taken, but he had a life, and that he meant something to him, and tell them what he meant to him.
Okay.
And that's important.
Okay, so I know we don't have too much time.
Yes.
Tell me, you have more male victims than you do female victims. Now, with Northwest Victim Services, we've seen an increase in
yes.
females who have been shot and females who have been murdered.
Yes.
Are you seeing an increase as well at
So
E.M.I.R?
the increase is huge. The crime on women is large, and that I see it all the time, but we saw the climb happening over a year ago, and we are always tracking trends and environments and cultures and seeing what's going on, and so we kind of predict where it will be, and we weren't surprised.
Okay.
We're not surprised by it. You have a world and you have a system. What I tell people, we have a lot of racism. We're being hunted by a racist system, and therefore we're hunting each other, and that the value of life has been lessened, and poverty is so at a high that it's not any rules of not moms, not women,
And not children.
and
Remember
not children.
that rule?
That's not a rule anymore, and so the expectation of it happening, yes. Now, because we know that it will, we need to do more about stopping it.
I agree. And it's scary.
Yeah, it's real scary.
It is.
This work is scary. What we do is scary. But
And I take it home with me
Yep.
every night.
Yes,
Chantay,
yes.
I don't know how to turn it off.
Okay.
And my husband's like, Melanie, I'm like, I gotta save the world. You
Right,
know what I'm saying? So I
right.
have my work phone all the time.
Yeah.
My children are like, Mom. And then sometimes I could be eating dinner and I'm just like, I'm
Wow.
crying.
Yeah.
And the babies is what like really gets to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to turn it off. And
Yeah.
yours is every murder is real. So you're dealing with homicides 24 hours a day,
24 hours a day.
7 days a week. We deal with
All of the
like
crimes.
every type of crime,
Crime.
but yours is like extremely heavy.
Yes, every day. And so I think that we've been, for E.M.I.R Healing Center, we've always had certain things that were required to do the type of work to keep self-care. And our environment allows our staff to work and our volunteers to work in that environment, but it's a healthy environment, and so that they do know how to balance it. And it's okay when I see a staff member overload, I shut them down.
Okay.
And I'm okay with doing that. They might not like it, but
Right.
and you have to have certain things that keep you going. You still need to learn how to smell the flowers and process it differently.
Yeah. And have that passion. I think
Yes.
you have to have the passion for
Yes.
for what we do.
Yes, you
and
do.
we're nonprofit, so we don't make a lot of money.
No, we don't.
So you have to have that.
You gotta love
You
people.
You do.
And I think we do.
Yeah, the biggest reward for me is when I speak to victims. It's mainly homicide survivors, and that mom will say to me before we get off the phone, Melanie, I love you.
Yeah.
That's my payment.
Okay.
That's my payment.
Okay.
That just makes me feel like I can go on
Yeah.
another day. I can go on another day.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And that's a good thing.
Okay. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Power of Your Voice. Please remember, your voice matters and your voice can make a difference. You can be the one to change the world. The power of one starts with you. Thank you for joining us.